A single father saved a millionaire buried alive in the woods. What she whispered made him freeze inside. The wind moved like a voice searching for someone. Caleb paused on the ridge, boot soles half sunk in snow, one hand on the axe strapped to his back. The trees swayed around him, tall pines groaning under their winter burden, and somewhere to the west, a raven called once and fell silent. It was cold in a way that quieted everything. Even the dogs stopped. "Finn," Caleb said softly, crouching beside the old shepherd mix. The dog's hackles were up, ears forward, nose twitching hard toward a patch of tangled underbrush just off the trail. Finn didn't bark. He never barked unless it mattered. Caleb moved slowly. Gloved fingers pushed through brittle branches crusted with hoarfrost, boots crunching against the crusted snow. He expected maybe a trapped deer, something fallen and still breathing. But what he saw made his throat close. A hand. Small, pale, frostbitten around the fingernails. Reaching up through snow like the forest had tried to swallow it whole and failed. For half a second, he just stared. Then everything inside him kicked into motion. He dropped to his knees and began digging with his hands, tossing clumps of packed snow behind him. His breath came in clouds. Finn barked once now, sharp, urgent. "Please be alive," Caleb muttered. "Please." The hand moved. Barely. Enough. More snow came away, revealing a face, scraped, bloodied, lips cracked and blue. A woman. Her mouth was parted as if frozen mid-scream, but when Caleb touched her cheek, her eyes opened. Just a slit. "You're okay," he said, though it wasn't true. She wasn't okay. She was a miracle on the edge of death. She blinked once. Then, barely louder than the wind, she whispered, "Don't call the police." Caleb froze. Her voice was weak, frayed, half-frozen. But the clarity of those 5 words was unmistakable. And utterly wrong. Anyone else would have begged for sirens, for lights, for a chopper overhead. But this woman, buried in a shallow grave in the woods, said no to help. "Ma'am, you need. Please." Her eyes fluttered. "They'll find me." He didn't ask who. Not yet. She passed out. The next hour blurred. Caleb lifted her from the snow as gently as he could, her frame far too light, like muscle had drained from her bones. Her coat, if it had once been a coat, was more torn silk and shredded wool than anything useful. Designer, maybe. City thing. Not made for these trees. Finn ran ahead as Caleb carried her through the forest, down the ridge, over the log bridge he'd built with his daughter the previous summer. The weight wasn't the problem. The problem was what didn't make sense, how someone so clearly out of place ended up buried 5 miles from any road, without a single track leading in. His cabin was dark when he reached it. Smoke curled from the chimney. Lily had remembered to feed the fire. She was waiting by the door when he opened it, small frame wrapped in 2 scarves, eyes wide. He didn't speak, just nodded once. Lily stepped aside. He laid the woman down on the couch, covered her in 3 wool blankets, started a kettle. The cabin was quiet but alive, fire crackling in the stone hearth, the scent of spruce logs, pine sap, and drying herbs strung from the beams. The woman looked like she belonged to another world entirely. Lily stood nearby, not speaking. She watched everything. She always did. Her name. Lily whispered. "I don't know yet." The woman stirred sometime after dusk. The firelight caught her face, softening the bruises, giving color where none had been. Her lips moved again. This time it was a name. Celia. Caleb leaned forward. "Celia, you're safe. You're in my home." Her eyes darted. The girl. My daughter. Lily. Celia's breathing slowed. Her eyes closed again. Caleb could see the pulse beneath her jaw now, shallow but steadier. He brought broth to her lips. She drank 2 sips before her hand slid away. That night, as the storm thickened outside, Caleb sat by the window, watching the dark. He didn't touch his tea. Lily had fallen asleep near the hearth, curled with a quilt around her shoulders. The woman, Celia, slept, too, but not peacefully. She shuddered in her dreams. Sometimes her fingers clawed at the blanket. Once, near midnight, she whimpered a name into the dark. Benji. Not his name. Not anyone he knew. A child. By morning, Celia had a fever. Caleb crushed herbs and added them to water, applied salve to the scratches on her face. She didn't wake. He found a wallet tucked into the torn lining of what used to be her coat. No ID. No cards. Just a folded photo, creased and soft at the corners. A boy. Maybe 2. Big eyes, curly hair, smiling with a juice cup in his hand. The name made sense now. Benji. He tucked the photo back without a word. Later that day, as the storm let up, he rode the snowmobile to the ranger station to radio in for supplies. He didn't mention Celia. Didn't mention the shallow grave. He didn't know why. Maybe because of her voice. Or the way her hand had clutched his sleeve when she whispered not to call for help. Maybe it was the silence in her eyes, something old, something hunted. He told himself he was giving her space. That night, she woke with a gasp. Her hand gripped his forearm like a vice. Don't let them take me. Please. Who? He asked gently. But she was already slipping back under. 2 days passed before she stood. Not walked, just stood. One arm braced on the wall, legs trembling. She stared at the window, and the woods beyond, like they might turn on her. Lily walked over quietly. She didn't speak. Just reached out and placed a carved wooden bear in Celia's hand. My mom made it, Lily said. She's gone now. But the bear still works. Celia knelt slowly, fingers trembling around the toy. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Only a tear, slow and silent, dropped onto the pine floor. Later that night, when the power flickered out and the cabin dropped into candlelight, Caleb brought her tea and sat across from her, the silence between them easy. I saw your picture, he said finally. Her hand twitched. The boy. Benji. She didn't look up. But her voice was clear. They'll kill him if they think I'm still breathing. That sentence took the air from the room. Caleb leaned forward slowly. Tell me what that means. But Celia only shook her head. Outside, the trees creaked. Inside, the fire shifted. And across the cabin, Lily stirred in her sleep and whispered something no one understood. Celia looked at her, then at Caleb. Then, in a whisper that didn't match the strength of her eyes, she said, I wasn't supposed to get out. Caleb sat back. He didn't press. He simply stoked the fire, sat down again, and kept the silence warm enough for her to stay. The morning broke pale and slow. Sunlight slid across the snow like a secret trying not to wake the world, filtering through the frost-webbed windows of the cabin. Caleb stirred the fire, careful not to wake the 2 sleeping forms behind him. Celia lay curled on the couch, blanket drawn up to her jaw, breath shallow but steady. Lily, sprawled on the rug with one arm thrown over her stuffed rabbit, murmured something inaudible in her dreams. Caleb sipped his coffee, but it tasted more like questions than warmth. She had barely spoken since whispering about Benji. There was a way people fell silent when they were afraid, when they weren't sure if speaking might summon something worse than silence. He recognized it. Had worn it himself once, after the accident. After losing Elise. Celia wasn't hiding a bruise. She was hiding her story. Later that day, Lily came to him with an open laptop and wide eyes. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging his flannel sleeve. "I think I know who she is." He knelt beside her on the old braided rug. The Wi-Fi only worked when the weather behaved, and today, by some small mercy, the signal held. On the screen was a news article from 2 days ago: Celia Vaughn missing, search intensifies for clean tech heiress. The photo was clearer than reality. Celia's face without bruises. Her hair smooth and swept back, earrings tiny and precise. Behind her, a podium with her name engraved in brushed steel. The article said she disappeared from a highway near Echo Pass. Car abandoned. No note. No ransom. Lily stared at him. "That's her, Daddy." "Right." He didn't speak. Just nodded once. Later, while Celia napped, he read more. Forbes profiles. Interviews. Her company, Vaughn Renewables, ran solar farms across 3 states. A reputation for privacy. Some called her elusive. Others said visionary. He looked up from the screen and watched her sleep, the stark difference between the woman in the photo and the one now curled like a child in wool blankets. One built empires. The other had clawed her way out of a grave. When she woke, he didn't say anything. Not at first. She reached for the mug of tea he'd left, and her hand trembled just slightly. Her movements were slower today. Tired in a different way. She noticed the laptop on the table but didn't touch it. Just waited. "You're not just anyone," he said finally. She didn't blink. "I didn't want to lie. But you didn't tell me." "I couldn't." He waited. Celia took a breath. "I don't know how long I was out there. 4 days. 6. Time got strange. I was drugged. Dumped in the snow. I think they wanted me to freeze. No bruises that way." "Who?" She shook her head. "Doesn't matter right now." "It matters to me," Caleb said gently. Her voice dropped. "I found something. In my company. Hidden accounts. Fake projects. They said I was wrong. I wasn't. And I was going to expose them. I just didn't realize how far they'd go to stop it." Her eyes flicked to the window, where snow still clung to the sill like something waiting. "They didn't just want me gone," she continued. "They wanted me erased. Quietly. I knew things I shouldn't. And I had leverage. But the moment I got scared enough to run, I became inconvenient." "Benji?" Caleb asked softly. She looked at him, startled. Then nodded. "My son. He's safe. For now. I sent him away with someone I trust before I tried to blow the whistle. They thought I was still home. I left that night. But they were already waiting. Why not go to the authorities? I tried. Once. The man I spoke to was on their payroll." The quiet stretched, long and brittle. "I'm not asking for your help," she added. "You're not," Caleb said. "But you're still here." She exhaled like it hurt. That evening, as the wind picked up again and the stove burned low, Celia stood at the sink, watching the snow fall. Caleb handed her a mug of cider. She didn't thank him, but her hand brushed his, lingered a second longer than necessary. That was enough. "You ever lose everything?" she asked without turning. Caleb stirred the fire. "Yes. Then you know it comes in layers. First the things you can name. then the things you never thought could be taken. She turned to him, and for a second, she looked like that photo on the screen. Composed. Powerful. I don't want to be saved, she said. I just want to finish what I started. The next day, Caleb took Lily into town for supplies. He watched the shadows move differently in town now. Not just harmless neighbors bundled in parkas but watchers. A truck that hadn't been parked there yesterday. A man pretending to browse snowshoes but whose eyes never left the counter. Lily held his hand tighter than usual. He bought what they needed and left without stopping to talk. Back at the cabin, Celia had cleaned the counters, reorganized the medicine cabinet, folded the laundry. A subtle thank you, done without a word. She found the bear Lily gave her and tucked it into her coat pocket. Lily noticed. You like it? She asked, shy. Celia smiled for the first time since she arrived. Very much. Lily beamed. It's magic. That's what my mom said. Celia looked down. Mothers say good things. She'd like you, Lily added matter-of-factly. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Celia and Caleb sat by the fire again. The air between them was less tense now. Not easy, but honest. There's more than one name I answer to, Celia said softly. Some people call me a queen. Others call me a fraud. But up here, in this silence, none of it sticks. He didn't respond. Just passed her the photo of Benji. I found this, he said. She took it and stared for a long time. I left him with a woman named Rosa. My old nanny. She's smart. Hidden. But if they even think I'm alive, they'll look for her next. You need to finish this, he said. But not from here. I know. She stood, walked to the window again. This time she didn't flinch when the trees creaked. They'll come. Eventually. Then we'll be ready. She turned back, eyes softer now. Why are you helping me? Caleb looked at the fire. Because I know what it feels like to bury someone you love. I won't do it again if I can help it. She stepped closer. Her hand rested lightly on his shoulder. In the flickering shadows, it was hard to tell who was trembling. Neither spoke. But for the first time since she clawed herself back from the dirt, Celia Vaughn let herself be still, truly still, as if her bones believed she might have survived after all. And outside, the forest held its breath. The hunger came first. Not in the belly, but in the silence. A gnawing edge to the air, like something waiting outside had skipped its last meal and was pacing now, restless beneath the snow. Caleb felt it before the dog did. Before even the wind changed. It began in the way the birds stopped singing. In how the trees didn't creak as often. In how the shadows clung to the cabin a little longer than they should have. Inside, the wood stove hissed steadily. Celia stood by the sink, drying a mug with methodical hands, her movements soft, efficient. Her bruises had faded into the faint yellows of healing, but her gaze, when it drifted from the window, was sharp. She knew something was shifting. Lily sat on the floor beside the fire, painting small clay animals. She held up a blue horse to Celia and said, "This one's yours now." Celia smiled at her. A real smile. "Then I'll keep it close." Caleb stood in the doorway, watching both of them. But his eyes kept flicking to the woods. The second sign came that afternoon. A drone. Small, high-pitched, almost lost in the wind, but it was there. Buzzing over the treetops like a hornet looking for a place to sting. Caleb stepped out with his rifle slung over his back, shielding his eyes from the low winter sun. It zipped over the ridge and vanished. He didn't like it. That evening, He brought in more firewood than usual. Checked the generator, then shut it down early. They'd run on candles tonight. Less glow through the windows. Less to see from out there. Celia didn't ask questions. She helped Lily tie pine branches over the glass, makeshift blackout curtains. Their hands worked silently, fingers brushing as they fixed the last boughs in place. "She's learning," Caleb murmured later, as they watched Lily sleep. "From both of us." "I know," Celia said. "She's brave. She thinks you're magic now." Celia looked down. "I'm not. I'm just less broken than I was." But in the stillness, something howled. Not a wolf. Not quite human either. A sound that carried down the mountainside like memory. Celia stiffened. "That's not coyotes." "No," Caleb said. "It's not." The third sign came with the snowstorm. It rolled in overnight, an unannounced wall of white that swallowed the road and blurred the treeline. Caleb watched it from the porch, breath fogging, listening to the thump of branches breaking beneath new weight. By dawn, the cabin was buried to its window sills. The world had turned into a silence so dense it seemed to press against the walls. They stayed inside, rationed firewood, ate stew in tin bowls. Lily built a blanket fort between the table legs, her giggles muffled under quilts. Celia helped her hang a string of dried cranberries along the beams, threading color into the grayness. But that night, Celia's nightmares returned. She cried out once, hoarse and sharp, and Caleb was at her side in seconds. She was sitting upright, soaked in sweat, eyes wide. "I saw them," she gasped. "Their faces." "Who?" "They put a bag over my head. They laughed while they did it. One of them, he had a tattoo on his hand. A jackal." She gripped his wrist, nails digging into skin. "They buried me alive. Because I said I wouldn't sign." Caleb didn't say it was over. He didn't offer false comfort. He just sat with her, the candlelight flickering between them, until her breathing slowed. The next morning, she didn't speak much. She wrapped herself in Lily's scarf and went outside with a shovel, digging out the back path until her arms gave out. It was her way of fighting something she couldn't name. Caleb didn't stop her. That afternoon, she found Lily's drawing pad and sat with her by the hearth. She drew a garden, then a house, then a small boy holding a balloon. His name was scribbled beneath. Benji. She didn't say anything when Caleb saw it, but her hand stayed on the page for a long time. As the wind screamed outside, Caleb finally asked what had been chewing at him. "Do they know where he is?" "No," she said. "But if they think I'm alive, they'll start looking." "You said you had leverage." "I do. Enough to bury them if I live long enough to use it. Then we need a plan." She nodded slowly. "I need to get to my lawyer. There's a file. USB drive. It's in a safety deposit box in Denver. He knows what to do with it. It'll be dangerous. They'll come before I can get there." Caleb exhaled. The fire popped. A log collapsed inward. "We'll be ready." But later that night, she vanished. He woke at 2 a.m., her blankets empty. Panic spiked sharp and instant. He slipped on his boots, grabbed the lantern, and stepped into the blizzard. He found her 100 feet from the cabin, barefoot in the snow, standing beneath a cluster of birch trees, her hands outstretched like she was catching ghosts. "Celia," he said gently. She turned. Tears had frozen to her cheeks. "I needed to feel it," she whispered. "To remember I'm alive. Sometimes I still hear the dirt falling. It's like it never stopped." He stepped beside her, shrugged off his coat, and wrapped it around her. Didn't say a word. Just let her lean into him. They don't deserve to keep winning, she said. No, he agreed. They don't. She hesitated, then whispered something into the night. Not a warning this time. A plea. If I don't make it, tell my son I loved him more than my own name. You'll make it, Caleb said. We'll make sure of it. Back inside, Lily had woken. She watched as they came in, Celia shivering, Caleb silent. Without a word, Lily reached into her coat pocket and took out the wooden bear. She pressed it into Celia's hand. It still works, she whispered. Even in snowstorms. Celia wept quietly, her fingers wrapped around the worn wood. Later, after the storm passed and the world outside calmed, they sat together in the cabin's warmest room. A blanket pulled tight across 3 shoulders. Steam rose from mugs of tea. The silence wasn't empty now, it was full of unspoken things. Promise me something, Celia said softly. Anything, Caleb replied. If we make it through this, I want to come back. Here. With Benji. I want him to know quiet like this. He nodded. You're safe here, he said. And if not, I'll fight like hell to make it so. The hunger was still out there. But so was the fire. And something in both of them had decided not to die. The snow had begun to melt. Not fast, and not entirely, but in long, slow weeps from the edge of the roof, in the darkened stains of dirt along the road where Caleb had shoveled paths every morning. The trees held on, still dressed in white, but the weight of the season had begun to shift. You could feel it in the air, not quite spring, but the idea of it. Caleb stood on the porch sharpening a blade, watching the tree line. The forest had gone quiet again, but not in a way that brought peace. It was the kind of quiet that made a man's instincts stretch. Celia had taken to wearing boots now. The scarf Lily gave her was still tied around her throat like a promise. She moved differently, not just stronger, but more present. She didn't flinch at sounds anymore. She didn't avoid her own reflection in the kettle. Her strength had returned in pieces, stitched together by firelight, silence, and the kindness of a child who believed that even broken things had worth. But the shadows hadn't forgotten her. It was late afternoon when the knock came. 3 raps. Measured. Almost polite. Celia froze. Caleb met her eyes, nodded once, and moved to the door. He didn't open it immediately. Just peered through the sliver of curtain. A man stood there, smiling, dressed in a heavy parka, but his boots were too clean. No snow on the soles. No frost on his shoulders. Caleb opened the door halfway. Afternoon, the man said cheerfully. Sorry to bother. Got turned around a bit looking for the trailhead. You folks seen a ranger station nearby? Caleb's voice was flat. 4 miles west. Nothing out here but trees. The man nodded, eyes flicking past him into the cabin. Cozy place you got. Wasn't an invitation. The man's smile flickered. Of course not. He turned, stepped down the porch, then paused and looked back. Beautiful girl in the window, he said. Your daughter. Caleb didn't answer. The man winked and walked off, crunching down the trail. But he didn't head west. Caleb watched until he disappeared behind the trees. That night, Celia didn't sleep. She pulled a satchel from beneath the floorboard and handed Caleb a sealed envelope. This is the file, she said. Names. Transactions. Everything. If something happens to me, if they come again, mail it. It's addressed. It'll burn them to the ground. He held it like it was glass. "Where will you go?" "To Denver. My lawyer's expecting me in 2 days. After that, I don't know." Caleb nodded, but neither of them moved. "I'm scared," she admitted, voice low. He looked at her. "Good. Means you still care what happens next." She stepped closer. Her fingers brushed his. "Thank you for not asking questions before I could answer them." That night, she tucked Lily into bed, smoothed her hair, kissed her forehead. "You're the kindest girl I've ever met," she whispered. "Someday you'll make the world a little softer, just by being in it." Lily frowned sleepily. "Are you leaving?" Celia's voice cracked. "Soon." Lily nodded. "Then take the bear. It keeps people safe." Celia held it against her chest. Outside, the forest watched. The attack came just before dawn. 2 men, silent as frost, moving through the trees in shadows not yet broken by sun. Caleb heard them before Finn barked, just the faintest snap of a twig, the breath of someone not meant to be there. He moved fast, grabbed the shotgun, signaled Celia with a look. Lily stayed in the back room, trained. Celia didn't scream when the first window shattered. She ducked, rolled, grabbed the flare gun. The first man came through the back. Caleb tackled him into the wall, the wood cracking like thunder. They wrestled, breath loud and hot in the cold air. Caleb took a punch to the ribs, another to the jaw. But he landed a blow with the stock of the shotgun, and the man crumpled. The second was inside before Caleb could turn. Celia raised the flare gun and fired. The flare exploded in red light across the ceiling, filling the cabin with fire-colored shadows. The man recoiled, eyes blinded. Finn leapt, teeth catching fabric and flesh. Caleb ended it with one shot. Then silence. Heavy, horrible, real. The smell of smoke and sweat filled the air. Celia stood against the wall, shaking. Lily peeked from the bedroom, her voice small. "It's over." Caleb nodded. "For now." 10 minutes later, Old Man Dorsey, Caleb's nearest neighbor, a quarter-mile through the woods, arrived with his rusted shotgun and his long johns half tucked into boots. "Saw the flare," he said, squinting at the bodies. "Thought you might be coyote hunting. Didn't expect this kind." Caleb nodded. "Need help burying them?" Dorsey just grunted. "Got a better place. Deep ravine. Snow never melts there." They didn't speak about it again. By noon, the world was back to pretending nothing had happened. But Celia couldn't anymore. She held Lily close and whispered, "I'll come back. I swear it. Just let me finish this." "You're already my mom," Lily said. "Even if you go." Celia wept. Later, she packed lightly. Just the photo of Benji, the bear, the sealed envelope, now back in her coat pocket. Caleb walked her to the edge of the tree line. "You'll be okay," he said. "No," she said. "But I'll make it." He touched her hand. "You still hear the dirt?" "Sometimes." "Then listen harder for the roots. They're holding you up now." She smiled, eyes bright with something stronger than fear. "Caleb." "Yeah." She leaned close and whispered something. His eyes widened, and for a moment, he didn't breathe. Then she kissed his cheek and walked away. 3 months passed. The cabin stayed quiet. The snow retreated. Trees began to bud. Lily painted flowers on the porch steps with crushed berries and water. One day, a letter arrived. The return address said Denver. Caleb opened it slowly. Inside was a note, written in clean, steady handwriting. Benji is safe. The board is broken. The jackal lost his fangs. I bought a house with a swing and a garden. You'd like it. I hope he will too. I remembered what I whispered that morning. Tell her I'd be honored to be her mom. Tell her I kept the bear. And tell yourself you didn't just save me. You gave me back my name. Caleb folded the letter and held it to his chest. Outside, the trees swayed like they were listening. And somewhere beneath their roots, the silence finally loosened its grip. If this story touched you, subscribe or share where you're watching from.